What happens when a politician says out loud what many people quietly fear is becoming normal in Britain? And what if the facts tell a very different story from the outrage? Because right now, a political firestorm in the UK is putting Indian migrants at the center of a deeply emotional debate about race, jobs, identity, and who gets blamed when a country feels under pressure.
Britain's long-running debate over immigration has once again burst into the spotlight, this time with Indian migrants at the centre of the storm. A controversial statement by a British lawmaker has triggered a fierce backlash online. The tweets have revived discussions about race and migration. The statements prompted many to question whether political rhetoric is keeping pace with the facts. The outrage was sparked by Rupert Lowe. He's a British politician who recently launched the right-wing political party Restore Britain after splitting from Reform UK.
I don't believe we should import millions of Pakistanis and Indians to do jobs that unemployed Brits should be doing. If that makes me a racist, then so be it.
This is not just another immigration headline. This is about how political rhetoric can shape public anger, distort reality, and turn entire communities into targets overnight. Let's get into it. Britain's long-running debate over immigration has once again exploded into the spotlight. This time, the trigger was a controversial statement from British politician Rupert Lowe, who recently launched the right-wing party Restore Britain after splitting from Reform UK. In a series of posts, Lowe argued that Britain should not be bringing in millions of Pakistanis and Indians to do jobs that, in his view, unemployed Britons should be doing. He went even further, saying that if that made him racist, then so be it. Those words hit hard, and they spread fast. Because in today's political climate, statements like these do not just stay online. They become fuel. Fuel for anger. Fuel for division. Fuel for a wider conversation about who belongs, who does not, and who gets blamed for the country's problems.
The remarks were part of a broader series of posts. Lowe criticised immigration and multicultural Britain. In a message on X, he claimed that visiting parts of northwest England felt like being transported to a foreign country.
This has not happened by accident. This was a willful decision to import millions of low-skilled migrants from the Third World by Labour, Reform, and Conservative politicians. This is an increasing problem. It is getting worse, not better. Quickly. Men walking around with 2, 3, 4 women in burqas. This is not normal. I detest it.
He claimed parts of Manchester's high streets were becoming increasingly Islamic. He described immigration as a form of colonisation. The MP further alleged that British women no longer felt comfortable walking in certain neighbourhoods. He argued via his tweet that demographic changes were reshaping communities. He stated that some communities tend to have significantly larger families and rely on public funds. He also claimed this was a reality that many politicians were unwilling to discuss openly. According to him, while some areas had not yet experienced these changes to the same degree, they eventually would. He concluded by saying that there was only one solution to the issue, and that only his political party was prepared to take the actions he believed were necessary.
Restore Britain. Ban the burqa, Sharia courts, cousin marriage, halal slaughter, dominating public prayer. Reverse mass immigration. Deport foreign Islamists. End political Islam. We're told to shut up and just accept it, even embrace it. No longer. We refuse. Restore Britain will do what needs to be done. I promise you that.
And that is exactly why this story matters. Lowe did not stop there. In other posts, he claimed that visiting parts of northwest England felt like entering a foreign country. He described visible Muslim practices and demographic change as signs that Britain was being transformed in ways he said ordinary people were too afraid to discuss openly. He framed immigration not as an economic policy issue, but as a civilizational crisis. And that is where the language becomes especially powerful. Because once immigration stops being discussed as numbers, mass housing, or policy, and starts being described as colonization, replacement, or takeover, the emotional temperature changes completely. The debate becomes much less about facts and much more about fear. Now, before we go further, if you want clear breakdowns of UK immigration stories, political rhetoric, and the real facts behind the headlines, subscribe now and stay with me to the end, because this story gets even more revealing when you compare the rhetoric to the actual data. Now let's move from emotion to evidence. Because one of the biggest problems with political statements like Lowe's is that they often sound bold and definitive, but the reality is usually far more complex. His comments suggested that migrants from countries like India and Pakistan are flooding British communities, taking jobs, reshaping neighborhoods, and placing pressure on public life in ways politicians refuse to admit. But the available facts make that picture much harder to sustain. For one thing, Britain is not a country with no labor needs. In fact, multiple reports have shown that many UK employers continue to struggle to find the skilled workers they need. Sectors like skilled trades, healthcare, logistics, and specialist services have had long-running recruitment gaps. So the idea that migrants are simply sweeping in and taking jobs that British workers are waiting to fill is not the whole picture. In many cases, the argument ignores an uncomfortable truth. Britain has real labor shortages. And that changes the conversation. Because if businesses are struggling to recruit, and if key sectors rely on overseas labor to keep functioning, then the debate is no longer just about immigration levels. It becomes a debate about whether politicians are telling the public the full story. And then there is India's broader role in the UK economy. This is another part of the conversation that often gets lost. Indian migrants are not only workers. India is also one of the most important economic partners the UK has. Indian-owned businesses operate across Britain, investing, hiring, building, and contributing to economic growth. So when political rhetoric paints Indian migration as a one-dimensional burden, it ignores the reality that India's connection to the UK economy runs far deeper than simplistic slogans suggest. That does not mean immigration has no challenges. It does. Housing pressure is real. Public services are stretched. Community tensions can be real too. But serious policy debate requires honesty. And honesty means recognizing that migrants can contribute to growth, fill labor gaps, and still exist within a system that has genuine pressures. Those realities can exist at the same time. Now, here is one of the most revealing details in this story. According to official demographic data from the 2021 census, Rupert Lowe's own constituency of Great Yarmouth has a very small number of Indian and Pakistani residents. Together, they make up less than 1% of the local population. That point matters, because it raises a deeper question. If a politician represents an area with such a tiny South Asian population, why are Indian and Pakistani migrants being pushed to the center of his narrative? That is where critics say this becomes less about actual demographic pressure and more about political messaging. In other words, this may not just be about what is happening on the ground. It may also be about building a story powerful enough to mobilize anger. And that is something we are seeing more and more across Western politics. Immigration becomes the vessel into which every national frustration is poured. Jobs, crime, identity, stagnation, cultural anxiety, failing institutions, weak leadership. When people feel uncertain, immigration is often turned into the symbol of everything they think is going wrong. But symbols are not the same as facts. And that is why this debate matters so much. Because once large groups of people are turned into political symbols, it becomes easier to talk about them without nuance, without balance, and without acknowledging their humanity. Indian migrants stop being individuals with jobs, families, and contributions, and instead become part of a broad political target. That is dangerous, especially in a country like Britain, where immigration has always been tied not just to economics, but to empire, history, race, and national identity. That is why the backlash online was so intense. Many critics accused Lowe of promoting racist stereotypes and xenophobic narratives. Others pointed to Britain's colonial history, especially in relation to India, arguing that it is deeply ironic for descendants of empire to now be described as unwelcome intruders in a country that once ruled over them. That historical context matters because immigration debates in Britain do not happen in a vacuum. They are shaped by memory, by power, and by the legacy of decisions made long before today's migrants were even born. So where does that leave the public now? It leaves Britain in a familiar but uncomfortable place. A place where immigration is once again being used as a political dividing line. A place where rhetoric is moving faster than evidence. A place where the loudest statements often get the biggest headlines, even when the facts underneath are much more complicated. And that is the real issue here. Not just what Rupert Lowe said, but what happens when politics rewards this style of language. Because once outrage becomes a strategy, moderation begins to look weak. Complexity looks boring. Nuance looks evasive. And the people caught in the middle are often ordinary migrants who suddenly find themselves blamed for problems far bigger than themselves. So the real question Britain now faces is not only how many migrants it wants, or what kind of immigration system it should have. The bigger question is this: can Britain still have an honest conversation about immigration without turning entire communities into scapegoats? Because the data, the labor shortages, the economic contributions, and the demographic realities all suggest that the truth is far more complicated than the rhetoric. And in moments like this, that complexity matters more than ever. If this video helped you see the deeper story behind the headlines, like, share, and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, do you think Britain's immigration debate is still based on facts? Or is it becoming driven more by political fear than reality?